Okay. So, welcome everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce our guest speaker for today. The premise really of today is a part of the Lynton webinar series where we do live Q&A with expert clinic owners. And we have one of our beautiful, lovely customers here today who's so experienced in aesthetics. Hopefully we're going to share some nice, get some tips and insider secrets from you today, Maria. So welcome.
Thank
How are
you.
you? How are you?
Well, bearing up like everybody else, we have that have a cup of tea, you keep calm and get on with it spirit, don't we? And
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're doing in the Thorns household.
yeah. And you run 3 clinics, don't you? So all closed at the moment and
Yes,
all, yeah.
yes. So Stephen and I, company directors and co-founders of Qutis Clinics, we were off to a wedding in Colombia, South America. And we got home just on the day that Boris Johnson called down the lockdown. Now we have a clinic manager, but we've had a pretty heavy week of it, like everybody. I'm sure ours is no different to anyone else, but we had to get used to everything quite quickly because we were traveling in parts of South America with no signal, etc.
Yeah.
So for 12 blissful days in March, we were quite unaware of all the situation for
Wow.
the
So you
rest of
didn't
the
have any
UK.
idea it was going on whilst
Some ideas, but you know, we had like this enforced social media break, like you
yeah,
do when you go on
yeah,
holiday.
yeah.
And we were in deserts and up mountains and in jungle and all that sort of thing. So I'm really happy to say it came back with the holiday vibe, and I've tried to keep it going each day.
I think I think you mentioned it's like a different planet when you landed back, when you got back, it's
Yeah.
like a totally surreal situation.
Yeah, we got back and Heathrow was locked. So we got
Oh,
off the plane and we were all, at that time, very close to each other, but we'd all been wearing masks.
yeah.
In Bogota Airport, we'd
'Cause it
had
must
to
have
wear
been
masks.
quite scary. It must have been scary to get on a plane at that point and fly on a plane, I would have thought even.
Well, yes, because our flights back were cancelled and taken off.
Okay.
So I think I said to somebody before, and I'll say it again, that in Bogota Airport, I felt like me and my family were starring in our own Netflix
Yeah.
dystopian drama, trying to get on a flight. And even we were on standby, so we were like last on a flight. Because of course people were missing their connections, so we're not getting back into the country. So
Mm,
whoever that person was that missed their connection, thank you, because it allowed Steve Thorns and myself to get back in.
yeah.
And of course, yes, we immediately had to have meetings with our virtual meetings with our team
Yeah.
and get to grips with it all very quickly. But anyway, that said, here we are.
Yeah, here we are. So, I mean, thanks ever so much for agreeing to chat with us today. The idea really of this webinar series is to get some insight from people just like yourself who are going through what many other clinic owners are, and just to get a feel for how you're coping with the current challenges. But also as well to celebrate the successes and celebrate the positive aspect of things, I guess, and to talk about your business and how you run your business, because I know it's a fantastic set of clinics, and well done for getting 3 clinics set up. I know that's a huge challenge. A lot of people they get one, don't they, and it's difficult, I think, to move into that next stage of expansion. So it'd be fascinating to hear a little bit of your journey and your story with that. But just to give everyone a little bit of background, if you're not familiar with Maria, Maria's been in aesthetics for 20 years, I think, or more now.
I
So,
can't tell you it's more, but let's be
but looking good.
well, we're in the right business, aren't we? I always say that to people.
But I was fascinated to find out that you were actually the author of the very first set of standards for
Co-author,
co-author
me and a
for
few of the
the
nurses,
first
yeah.
set of standards for us for aesthetic nurses. So before even really this was a profession or an industry, you were there sort of setting out the benchmarks, deciding what the standards needed to be, I know myself that you have incredibly high standards in your business, because I remember coming to try and sell you a machine and the rigorous process that went through.
Our every day.
But it was one of those where it was less about the finances and more about is this going to work? Is my client going to be happy? Will we get the results that we need? And you went through a really thorough testing process with us, to make sure that that piece of equipment was right for your customers and for your clinic. And you can just see from looking at your brand online that runs through everything that you do, doesn't it?
Thank you for that, that you recognise that. Yes, and I mean, one of the things that I will say about you coming into our clinic is that, in short, I've tried to run our clinics like a departmental sister, nursing sister. My last job was in intensive care, cardiac surgery, and not in the NHS. It was in Holland. I worked in the academic ziekenhuis of Utrecht, which is University Hospital of Utrecht, and I, was fortunate enough to be promoted over there, and I hope that I took quite a few British and UK nursing principles to that job in Holland, and also I picked up an awful lot from my multinational colleagues that I worked with. But all of this has shaped me and my desire to have a nurse-led clinic. And it's interesting, I just had a little thought, only just in my head. I introduced quite a few nurses from my background into aesthetics just by saying to them, oh, I'm starting up in my own practice. And one of my one of my friends who is also a nurse, she laughed at me like only good friends can, and she went, practice? Who do you think you are, some sort of doctor or dentist? And I said, no, I think I'm a nurse and I'm going into my own independent practice. Now, interestingly enough, she followed me a few years later. Mm-hmm. We worked out and co-worked with each other. She's got a very successful practice herself, and she knows who she is. She's in Hampshire. In case you're watching, you know who you are.
Isn't that fascinating? So you must have lots of friends across the aesthetics industry, and it's a lovely industry to be in, isn't it? I know that you're really passionate about it.
It is a lovely industry, and for me, Marea Brennan Thorns, it is a great industry because I'm very independent. My husband describes me as a cat, not a dog, and that sort of sounds like I'm not a team member, but or a team worker. I do work well with a team, I like to think, but I'm not so great at being in large institutions. So being in my own business and in my own practice really suits my personality to a T.
I know you have a really good relationship with the team, and how are you feeling about the team situation now? How are your team, and how is everyone around you?
Well, last week, everybody was ploughing into our WhatsApp group. We have a team WhatsApp group because you can imagine being over 3 different locations in Oxfordshire and Hertfordshire. You don't see your team members or your colleagues every day. Well, we see them. We see the team. We get the team together twice a year, summer and Christmas. But otherwise, they're communicating via WhatsApp. And everybody was ploughing in last week with happy stories. In fact, I've got a few to share with you, etc. And also there's been a lot of happy or jokey videos, etc. People walking their dogs from 2 stories up on a long lead from flats, and this week it's a little bit quieter. But it's only Monday. It's only Monday of the second week. Tuesday. A little bit quieter, but I've been in touch with all of my team today.
Yeah. How do you find that in general, managing the multi-site practice and managing quite a big team of people?
I have a secret weapon, and she's called Angela Hunt, and she is, nice little story coming up. She's been with me for 8-10 years. And she came to work in my clinic, first of all, as a clinic coordinator. And then after about 5 years, she wanted to be a nurse. She says she was inspired by, there's not just me that's a nurse, with a few other nurses within the practice. She was inspired by nursing, and she went off to do her degree. And she continued to work for us on Saturdays, supporting herself through her student nurse days. And then 1 year ago, and she'd been working in the NHS for about 2 years, also in cardiac area. We were getting together because she's my swimming buddy. We do open water swimming together, so we've always maintained a friendship. And she looked very tired, and she told me that most days off she was sleeping a lot. And she just said, if ever there was a good nursing job with you, I'd be really interested. And guess what I did? I snapped her up. We made a nurse business manager. So she's a very competent nurse and an excellent business manager, because she knows all those systems, from being clinic coordinator, order processing, and all of those sorts of things, stock development, stock management, etc. And as we took one away, we sent one back. So one of my nurses left me to go back into special baby care unit at the same time as Angela came on board. So we felt a little bit not too guilty about that.
Okay. And then I know you yourself, you're an asthma sufferer, aren't you? So.
Oh, I hardly say I suffer. I mean, I have a preventative inhaler, but
makes it tricky to. I know you're expressing to me your disappointment and not being able to get back in yourself at the moment. So, and I think a lot of people feel like that if they're high risk. Then.
I mean, I don't mind telling you and the audience. You'll keep it a secret, I hope, won't you? But I'm 65, and I've got mild asthma with a history of 3 lots of pneumonia following flu. So I'm not really a very good candidate. I sort of knew it, but I needed to test it and put it to the, to the test. But I can't. I wouldn't be. It'd be a burden to go in and work front line. So I'm volunteering as a check-in and chat, and we'll see how that goes.
The thing is, you've got to be so careful though, because even like we've seen on social media this week, Tapan Patel,
gosh,
young, fit, healthy guy.
Yeah.
It's got coronavirus pneumonia.
Yes, sending love to Tapan. If anybody from his team is watching, we all send love, wish you a speedy recovery.
We do. But I found that quite shocking, because it's somebody that obviously I know, and that you consider to be in a very safe category. But this has really hit. It's quite scary, isn't it? And I wonder if sort of this week, with you saying it's a bit quieter, people are taking stock a bit now, aren't they? And just thinking, oh, okay, last week was a bit, put the wheels in motion, let's react as much as we can. And this week it does feel a bit like people are just starting to settle down and kind of settle into things, really. And I've seen you doing your social media videos. They're very good. If anyone hasn't checked out Maria's Instagram, then have a look at that, because there's some lovely videos on there. I liked the one about the nursing tips with how to take the packages into the house and make sure that you have good infection control.
Yeah, well, I know, Hayley, thank you for that. I know, Hayley, that when I inject faces, I'll say to my patients, I'll get the alcohol gel out, and I'll say, right, now you must use the alcohol gel on your hands, because I don't really want you to touch as you're looking at things, but I know human nature, it is the sort of like a reflex to just touch where you've recently been sore. So we've always practiced that, and occasionally I've had patients who've said, well, it's my own germs, and and I've said, well, not really, because you've opened a door to get in, and you've done this, you've touched that, and whatever, you don't know what you're going to pick up from a surface. So I just thought it would be helpful, because of my experience with seeing how blasé people can be. Bless them, it's done in naivety, but I thought it would be helpful, so thank you.
They're good, they're really good, and I think they're sort of on trend with the idea of looking after your community of followers as well, aren't they? Your Qutis, as you call them, because your Qutis clinics.
Qutis clinics, and we call our community and tribe the Qutis, which people probably think is a bit, but
They work though, things like that. I was thinking the other day, I said Lyntonites in my head, or little Lyntonite followers, and I haven't got
It
public
sounds like
till now. I
Superman,
just think, oh, I've got.
something that would be on Superman. Whatever that was,
I'll have to
Lynton.
get some suggestions from the audience on some better ones, I think. So I have some questions for you now, which should dig in a little bit deeper into your success. So, what do you wish that you'd known sooner in life, or in running your aesthetic business? Is there any sort of gem in there that you wish you could go back 20 years and tell your younger self?
Well, I hope I don't disappoint you, because it's short and is useful for these times now and useful for all life, and that is, this too will pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, in setting up, there's all sorts of things with difficulties, whether it's maybe losing a staff member, or maybe somebody being sick, or, fighting the battle of business, etc. And also my business has changed. I was in a nurse partnership and now I'm not. So I don't really want to go into that too much, but basically, I said it to my team all this week, this too will pass.
Yeah, important to take that on board, I think, and bear that in mind at the moment. We're reaching a new level of acceptance, I think, with it at the moment. So it does feel as though, lots of reflection going on this week.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably been a bit like me. Sorry?
You've had the clinic for a long time.
Yeah.
More than 10 years, I think, your actual clinics, Qutis Clinic.
Well, I started off as Marea Brennan Associates, as a peripatetic roving nurse in the UK. And then I took on another nurse and we became MBA, which was Marea Brennan Associates. And then we took on another premises and we decided to change the name back then, in the wisdom of the 90s, late 90s, to MBNS, Medico Beauty Nurse Services. And we were that for quite a while. But then, speed along 10 years later, we, together with my husband, Steve Thorns, we decided that we would franchise the business model, and for that we needed a new name. And our patients did get a bit mixed up with MBNS and MBNA, the financial services credit card company. It sort of didn't mean anything to them, particularly as it was abbreviated. So we figured on Qutis Clinics, which is taken from the Latin word for skin, which begins with Cutis, Qutis. And you can't brand mark that, you can't own that. So we changed it to a Q. And I've forgotten the question now. What was it, Haley?
I've forgotten too, but you answered it. It was about the length of time you've had in business, and I guess the idea is that if you last this long in business, you're pretty tough.
Yeah.
You've been through some ups and downs, certainly, along the way, haven't you? And well done, obviously, for that achievement. And it's interesting to see that you've rebranded over the time. What do you consider to be the unique selling points of Qutis now? How have you gone from a small entity into multiple sites? What does the brand look like today, and what's unique about it that's allowed you to do that?
Well, one of the things about working with my husband is that I ought to be beatified and made a saint shortly. But one of the things about bringing Steve Thorns into the business is that he said, to build a brand, Marea, and he worked with Johnson & Johnson before that, to build a brand, Marea, this isn't about Marea or even nursing. It's about the whole team. And it's not about one person's ego or one person. It's about having your patients, your customers, feeling confident that there is a dependable and consistency to the brand that they're visiting, akin to being like good parents. Somebody that is always there and always says the same thing, and not being a 9 out of 10, but a 10 out of 10 entity, collecting customer feedback. Every customer or patient that comes into our practice has an immediate email sent for feedback, and we take that very, very seriously, and we share that with the team. And I think, to give you an example of that, and of that philosophy just diffusing down, even in our Instagram stories or our Instagram TV posts, I will say, Emma's instructed me to tell you or share with you this. Okay. Angela has said this. Because obviously they're all at home and they're homeschooling, and there are a couple that are looking after elderly parents because there's care workers shortage, etc. So right now, looking on Instagram, it looks like it's just me, but there's a team of 14 behind me. Under normal circumstances, it's about letting our patients know about that. Does that sort of make sense?
How do you get, so one of the things you mentioned in there is consistency, and I think that's one of the toughest challenges for an aesthetic clinic, when you have the, you know, owner operator and you've got customers who are used to your level of service. How do you ensure consistency across your team?
Well, as an educator, because I've always done consultancy work with larger companies, it is really about making sure that the people that you are training work according to your standards, and then getting that message across to people who might have been used to me only. But I have to say, it was me only for 2 years, and then it started to build. So very quickly, edification is a word that you can look up, but it's about talking well about people. Yeah. So all of my customer-facing team, like the clinic coordinators, know that they have a few seconds to edify all the practitioners on the phone when they're speaking and imparting information. Yeah. And that would be that they all know our profiles, and, for instance, our experience, our specialist interests, etc., and getting that across in a genuine manner to the patients. And that's how I lead. I lead by edifying my team, and then they in turn edify their colleagues and myself.
It's like a personal recommendation system, isn't it? It's like somebody else in the practice saying, actually, Emma's brilliant, have a treatment with Emma, and you immediately do feel more confident then to have a treatment with Emma, don't you?
Exactly.
I hear so often people say that they find it really difficult to move their business onto another operator. And so edifying, I'll definitely remember that and pass that on.
Well, I thank you. And I mean, of course, I'm not the first to use it, but I think that you have to have the right personality as well. You know, I studied leadership for my master's degree, and I was particularly inspired by servant leadership, which means that quite obviously I will make a cup of coffee for the team or a patient, and I will change the black bags, etc. The team need to know that you will look after them just as well as your patients need to know.
Fantastic. And you must do a lot of training in the business as well. Do you do all your own in-house training, or do you still put your nurses on medical on to laser training courses, or how do you work training in your business?
Well, we tend to use in-house training apart from one. And that's for our lasers. There is nobody that trains as well as Lynton. And I wish I well, you know, you're part of that story and that history, but you can imagine I could get all pompous about how long I've been in this business, etc. But you know, I'm actually proud to be a Lynton customer. I'm proud that you're British. I'm proud that you have applied to make ventilators within your facility, and I hope you're going to allow me to talk about that to my community on Instagram. You know, we got a training shortly after our very first Lynton training, and we benchmarked it. It was a bit rubbish. I won't tell you who it was. It wasn't laser, but we benchmarked it, all of us, without even, you know, fighting in each other. We benchmarked it against Lynton and just said it falls short.
Mm-hmm.
So we do our own training. However, not for laser training. We always like your 2-day training whenever we get a new machine.
Good. And this is perhaps a tricky question now, but what's the hardest lesson you've had to learn in running your businesses?
Well, you're not always going to be appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Not by your team, not by your clients, and in the case of the early years, not by the Royal College of Nursing. I'm really sorry to say, they're great in many, many ways, but we formed a mutual interest group of aesthetic nurses, and then in the early 2000s, and then we were encouraged by the Royal College of Nursing to form a forum. And we really thought that would be us, home and dry, with competency writing and with support, etc. But we were put through the mill by our own Royal College of Nursing. But having said that, it made us stronger, so we got there.
And so these challenges that you've had and these things that you've learned and how you've got stronger, I guess, as a business over time, are you still passionate? Do you still enjoy it? Is it still where you want to be?
Absolutely. And I had this idea in my mid-40s that I'd be able to retire by 50.
I think a lot of people have that.
That was what successful people did. But no. And
what do you enjoy most about running? What do you enjoy most about running your business?
Well, I really like the daily contact with patients and helping patients. You know, everybody gets an hour consultation with us, and it's structured, but at the same time it's also warm, and you know, we train everybody in a 7-step consultation technique, and everybody has to learn that technique, but it has to be interspersed with their own personalities. And I've enjoyed teaching that to my team and seeing it come to fruition. I went to art college before I was a nurse, so aesthetics really suits me, particularly dermal filling and facelifting techniques using dermal fillers. So I enjoy that. I'm not going to retire. This is going to be hard for many people, and in some respects I was thinking, cool, is this what retirement
I thought that same,
yeah, but no, I really hope to keep going, and I really hope that we can be, if you like, an adjunct or a support service to our NHS. And it's in small ways. I understand it's in small ways, but you know, we take off like a lot of lumps and bumps that are benign, etc. And we're very experienced at providing a really good cosmetic result. And we've sent a lot of patients to dermatologists with suspect lesions, and nobody likes it when somebody has a suspect lesion like a melanoma or whatever, but we get to know that we've done the right thing sometimes. And it's not just the nurses, it's also my lovely therapists who have spotted suspicious lesions. So all of that, it helps me with my personality of not really being a big departmental person, of working with a small team. I enjoy that.
Yeah, I can see you're thriving off it.
Is my face lit up?
Yeah, it has. The only time it didn't was when you were talking about your other half.
Oh no, I hope he's not watching.
But it's good, isn't it, to have that sort of team member to bounce those ideas off. I think there's quite a few successful husband and wife teams actually in our industry, isn't there? So that dynamic, I think, can work very, very well.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us what you think are the sort of the best ways of marketing your business. What do you spend money on marketing? Do you invest a lot, only a little bit? You know, what do you think are the most successful forms of marketing?
Yes, we do market, and yes, we spend an appropriate amount. And in 20 plus years, we've seen right from Yellow Pages to being on radio, to being on TV, to investing in PR, to doing this and that and the other. But it's our opinion that we want to market through social media platforms, and that is the Qutis Facebook and Qutis Instagram. And we generate leads by giving away. This took me ages to accept. We give away a free consultation and a free hydrofacial express, which exchanges something for the patient's details.
Yeah.
Now, you might think, as I did, giving away free never really works because it's not appreciated. You get a lot of tire kickers, etc., etc. But you get some real gems. And if you think what their lifetime value will be over the period of 5+ years, it's well worth it. And of course, because we ask for emails, we are able to easily educate them, and they're getting to trust us through some educational content, and the free, if they want, hydrofacial. We mix that up a little bit. We never give anything free other than a facial, but we have like a LED light mask that we use as well, and that works very well for us. We do have a part-time marketeer who isn't really one of the team, but he comes out with us at Christmas and sees us in the summer. And he's been working very hard this week, getting everything lined up, because we changed our tone of, we weren't in any way sort of like we wanted to draw back from being salesy as soon as the coronavirus, COVID-19 situation and isolation and staying at home hit. So we've been involved with that. But in the past, we did radio, we did have a PR, we did print, but we don't do any print anymore.
And how's the virtual consultations going? Because I know that you're offering those. Are they successful? Can you make revenue through retailing that way at the moment?
It's early yet, and I'll be hand on heart saying to you, it's been very few to begin with. I mean, everybody will be going, yeah, we're still here, and we've still got this and that and the other. But let's face it, it's human nature, isn't it, sometimes to say that things are different, or things are a bit not like we expected. I think that might kick in as people run out of things. They're not going to run out on week 1 of quarantine. So we're just giving free of charge tips at the moment. And I think today's is about making your product go further. And I think that it's unwise and slightly not very tasteful to market too solidly right now. People are looking at their finances and wondering what the future will hold. And that word that I'm being told off for using, unprecedented, no one really knows. So it's working. We've got a portal open so we can order direct from 2 of our suppliers, and they will send off direct to patient, but it's slow at the moment.
I think that's the feedback I've had from across the board as well. So if anyone in the chat is doing extremely well with video consultations, then we'd love to hear what you're doing. But I do think people are nervous, they're readjusting, they're realigning, and they're not quite ready to come out of the woodwork yet, but they're watching and they're listening.
They're battening down the hatches. And they're probably choosing different cuts of meat, or the cheaper washing up liquid, because they don't know how long they've got to make their money last for. It won't do any of us any harm, really. It might give us some different values, me included.
That's true. I think we're in a situation where lots of reflection, reassessment going on, and how we come out the other side of this. Some industries will change dramatically. I don't think that aesthetics will change that dramatically, because we're so tactile. We have to get hands-on with patients and with people. So hopefully things will bounce back fairly soon.
Yeah.
And it will be great if they do. But I have a question from the audience just regarding pricing,
Yeah.
from Kerry, and I guess this could be a wider issue of like competition. So have you ever been through a period of time where you've had a competitor in the area who's very price driven, or has been actively marketing, and how have you handled that?
So the answer is yes, all the time. And we handle it. I remember learning this some years ago, that people price according to what they think they are worth. And I'll just let that statement land on you and think about it. People price according to what they think they are worth. Now, I think we are known for being in the upper quartile of pricing, and we always have been.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe we are worth it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot to offer. And what was the other part of the question? How do we?
So so your pricing structure you answered. So you're in the upper quartile, as you say, for pricing. What about when you've got a competitor who is marketing what appears to be the same product? A hydrofacial is a good example, because obviously you could have a clinic that also has a hydrofacial device. How do you go about differentiating yourself, or how do you react when you have a competitor that is marketing heavily on price?
Well, of course we go, darn it, or words to that effect, and we don't react.
Yeah.
I don't know if that sounds a bit sort of like false, but no, we don't react. We've got a hydrofacial just around the corner, and then just down one of the streets in Tame, at least. And they price very differently to us. But we do hydrofacial packaging and monthly go cardless, and offer many things other than taking the price down. So we give more value for money, and of course we talk about what we give extra. So, in hydrofacial, for instance, it's great massage, it's full LED mask, it's hand massage, it's, just getting an environment. I've got top therapists. One of my therapists used to treat the Beckhams. I've got top therapists. Now, we don't charge those prices. Pardon?
She's got some good stories.
I bet she has. And she's not telling us, by the way. She's very professional. But be confident in what your service is, and be confident right from the very beginning.
And what treatments are the most successful for you? And have you seen that change over the years?
Yeah, I have. Botox used to be the biggest, in our income generation. It was Botox. But I don't know how many of you are out there that have got mature, developed, returning customers. There gets a point in a patient's face, not in a lifetime or a business lifetime, where Botox isn't really going to totally cut the mustard for them. So you're then starting to do other things like lifting faces. And it's been great watching our plastic surgery colleagues come into the aesthetics arena, because they teach like surgeon to surgeon, but nurses and dentists and other physicians get to be on those courses, and we get educated. Hopefully we get safer, and we start to use our skills. I was injecting collagen when I first started, bovine collagen. Get to use those skills, I hope, in the fashion of a plastic surgeon. We're not plastic surgeons. We shouldn't go past our limits of competence. But I really enjoy that we can offer at nurse level and at cosmetic medical physician level. We can offer that type of treatment because we get this fantastic insight from our plastic surgeon colleagues.
And what do you think that patients, the consumers choosing these treatments, what do you think are the most important factors for them when they're choosing an aesthetic clinic to visit?
Well, they want to be assured in our patient cohort groups, because we'll all appeal to different demographics, I guess, according to if we're city, countryside, or whatever, but they want to feel that they're listened to and that they will look natural, and that you will go at a pace that they're happy with rather than pushed on them.
How do you, I guess your free consultations are a big part of making people feel secure and feel safe, and then being able to move them on, because it's quite a difficult message that to get across in marketing, isn't it? So you put a free consultation out there and it opens the door to you having conversations with people.
Well, yeah, I mean, a good colleague and someone who came into our practice to educate us, Marcus Haycock, would always say to us, getting the patient over the threshold, and then you've got them if your offering is good and trustworthy. So we have 2-tier consultations, by the way. Normally our consultations are £50. And that is then, they're able to then take the £50 in their subsequent treatment or products. But when we're running campaigns, we offer the hydrofacial as a free consult and an express treatment. And all of our consultations are done by nurses and the senior therapists. So they're getting somebody who's tried and trusted within our own philosophy of Qutis, look your natural best. And of course, it's like piano practice. We train them, we train them, we train them, and we continue to train them. And I enjoy that aspect of the job as well.
So how much time would you say you dedicate to training within your business?
Oh, I don't know, Hayley, how much time? I don't know. I couldn't give you a percentage, because that would be a true indicator of how much time. I'm going to do that appropriate amount again. I don't know how much time in percentage terms, but we value it, if that's helpful.
Yeah, you can see for sure. And so I guess the question for you now is, what do you think the future holds? You know, have you got a plan? Can you make a plan at this stage?
Yes, we have a plan. We're fortunate in the wisdom of Steve Thorns, my husband and co-director, having made sure that we've got cash retained within the business. I think I told you that we never set out to create a job. It's not just in exchange for a job. This is a brand, and we can keep going, we figure, for quite a few months. And I know that we've all got all types of government help, and thank God for that emergency social policy. I'm very pleased about that. But in these times, Stephen and I and the rest of the team, Stephen's strategizing, is getting to grips with new guidance. Obviously we have to work out, figure out how we do the pay thing. But further than that, we are going to continue to generate leads, because we're strong enough to have a business to go back to. And as each portion of the quarantine period goes by, I suspect we'll be focusing on different aspects of it. But we're keeping positive, we're keeping the positive vibe up on social media, and we'll be strong enough to start back up again. I know that people made their whole team redundant the week before we were put into quarantine lockdown. And that will be difficult to recoup that for some of those businesses. And it will now will give a chance for some people who feel that maybe they were not strong enough to drop out. So, like everything that happens in nature, the strong will survive. I believe we're strong. I do believe that we will survive, and we'll use this time to plan our way out of it.
Planning, that's the word, isn't it? Plan, and make sure you can readjust and realign, and every week just look and see how the landscape has changed. I think that's all we can really do at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, finishing off, do you have any other pearls of wisdom that you could impart to aspiring clinic owners?
Well, keeping in touch with your team is great, but I do have a story that I prepared for you. It
Oh.
tickled me. It may not be that funny, so don't hold your breath. But one of the mums in my team, her child said to her, "Oh, don't worry, mummy, I won't get the virus. I never get sick. Well, only that time that I had that awful stomach ache, and the other time when I ate that kid's fur off his hood." That made me laugh. You know, children thinking, well, I ate the fur off a kid's hood. Yeah, of course I'm going to be sick.
I mean, social media is brilliant, isn't it, for those stories and those things. There's been lots of positivity, at least, going on in the different Facebook groups I'm in for aesthetic clinics, etc. So, well, thank you ever so much. If there's any other questions from the audience, then please feel free to ask Marea now some questions, and I hope you stay safe and you stay well and all your team is good and that you're back in business.
Well, I've used my bike so much this week, I've broken it.
Yeah, I mean, what are you doing to stay fit and well and healthy? Are you
mainly cycling?
Yeah.
And thank God, the cycle shops are the essential businesses that are allowed to keep open. So I was able to walk my cycle up and get it fixed within an afternoon. It was returned to me all, cellophaned up. So that was quite difficult taking that off. But yeah, cycling, and I'm an open water swimmer. So I don't believe there are any guidelines about that. And the River Thames in Oxford is just across the meadow from where I live. So normally I get in April with a wetsuit. So that'll be me.
I do have a question for you. How and where do you advertise for new staff?
That's a very interesting and complicated question. Because we're quite well known, we get CVs sent a lot, so we keep them on file, and we occasionally do that. But we've used, tell me the jobs websites. We've used the name. I can't.
What,
the name of the job
ones or just normal?
No, normal ones.
Total Jobs or Read or CV Library?
It's those sorts of things that we've used. They've not been really great at getting us. We've do you know what? We've hired people from the patient group, of which Ellie, who is the senior clinic coordinator at Whitney, is one of them, and she's absolutely brilliant. And she was coming to us for 2 years as a patient, and she was a dental receptionist. And
I know 2 other clinics that have done that. You know.
Yeah. And Paige, our senior clinic coordinator at Tame, she was a patient. Chloe was a teenage patient with acne, and now she's a 21, 22-year-old therapist. The nurses really came to me via connections, if you like, and we haven't really advertised. But I know that BACN is very good for nurses, for advertising jobs, and consulting rooms is very good.
Yeah, I think consulting rooms are quite good. Yeah. And I think I've maybe started to see it on Aesthetic Medicine now as well, Aesthetic Medicine website. It's either that one or Aesthetics Journal, but they I think now have a classified section where you can put adverts up.
Yeah, I mean, I just think keep your eyes and ears open at all times. You know, if somebody strikes you as being impressive in your patient group, tell them, and even plant the seed. It might be 4 months, 5 months, 6 months before you get a vacancy, but it doesn't always work out. We've had a little bit of churn, but on the whole, you know, if you think that you can read a person, then I think that is is a way.
One of the difficulties a lot of clinics face is when they have put so much time and effort into a team member, and they then leave to go and set up on their own. I just wonder, have you had that situation, and do you do anything proactively to try to prevent that?
No. We've had it, and no, we don't really do anything proactively. You can write into contracts that you know, they're not set up within this and with that and with the other, but people have to make a living. And, you know, I just accept it. I've got one nurse that's been with me 18 years. And my nurse manager, and that nurse is Paula Sharuk. And my nurse manager, nurse business manager, Angela Hunt, she's been with us for about 8 to 10 years. I just think it's part of working life. Some you will lose, and they will set up. One of my best nurses, good old Adrian Baker, set up within a few short miles from us, and he's got a great business, thriving business, and I'm sort of like part proud about that.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah, like you say, it is going to happen, and there's not much that you can. If you feel bad blood in yourself, that can make the situation worse. I know when I was managing a team of salespeople, like the very first person that left took it really personally.
Yeah.
And I've just learned not to do that. You know, people will grow and develop and move on to new challenges, and you have to.
And that's experience, isn't it, Hayley? I'm not quite sure how you can speed up experience. That's experience.
Yeah. Just training. That's the only thing. Communication, like pretty relentless communication, I think. Just keeping people on the ball and in the loop, and then training as you do. We have a question from somebody who, Kerry, who has asked, are you, or were you prior to Corona, planning to invest in any new treatments or machines?
Probably our third cool sculpting machine.
Okay.
I really love the XL light. I'd like another XL light. And if only the XL light had hair removal on it, it would be my dream machine. We are looking at, I don't want to make it too much in the past. Pardon?
3-juve, because you have a 3-juve and an XL light. So
yes, sorry, I meant the 3-juve. Did I mean? Yeah, I meant the 3-juve. We were looking at HIFU. High intensity focus ultrasound.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in that. I know a lot of you guys probably have it already, but you know, there's a time and a place, and I think that's maybe our time and a place for the next thing to be HIFU.
Interestingly, we were approached October time or before. By 2 different companies with their HIFU devices. They'd like us to be the UK distributor. So I've got one sat in my office at work that we just started to run our clinical trials on, because obviously we need to trial them in-house first before we decide whether or not it's a suitable device to bring to the market. So
I'm now on your list, that if it is.
Yeah, but I mean, I was thinking as well, it's HIFU, isn't it? Because it's for this, you know, looseness around here.
Your muscular layer.
Yeah. Difficult with resurfacing. So I think that's an interesting technology to watch.
Very, very much so, and it's something to look forward to, actually. I'm glad that question. Thanks for that question. So I've got thinking about it again. Future.
You don't need to be medical to use a HIFU. So, although obviously we don't know what the regulations are going to do, how they will change. Hopefully this situation doesn't slow down the tightening up of regulation, because I think it's good to have those things in place, like your level 4s and your level 5s for people to work towards. The government was just starting to make some headway there, wasn't it? And hopefully this hasn't put things on a back burner with that. Okay. Thank you so much. Got some lovely comments in the feedback here. It's great to hear your opinions. Sounds like a fantastic clinic.
Thank you so much. And you guys, I'm Marea at qutisclinics.co.uk, or contact me through Instagram. I'm always very happy to help people. You know, my master's was in mentorship and transition from NHS to aesthetics. So I'm always very happy to impart my experience. I won't dare say wisdom, because that changes from week to week. But and thank you guys for tuning in and listening. I'm actually blown away with the amount of people that you've managed to, pick up on the interest.
So we squeeze one more question in.
Sure.
Who do you recommend to teach clinics marketing?
Oh.
Have you used a source where you find that you have they're very good at marketing, teaching you marketing?
No, is the answer. I don't have anybody that I can recommend, but I could recommend our marketeer, Nick Eagle. If anybody is interested, I'm very happy to share Nick Eagle's information, and I'm sure he would be able to give people a call. Of course, you have to pay for him, as we do. But I did marketing. I took some time out of nursing, between nursing and starting my aesthetics company. And I did sales and marketing for large American and Italian companies. So I have that sort of knowledge myself. And my husband worked for a FTSE company, and I think I told you he worked for Mentor Medical and latterly Johnson & Johnson. So we've not really gone into us teaching or recommending for teaching, but I think that use your personality, develop an online personality and version of the clinic, and maybe look to see what others are doing. And you don't have to copy, but it's just a question of gaining your own standards. And for anybody who wants to have Nick Eagle's details, then I'm sure they could contact you, Hayley, or me, Marea, Marea, at Qutis Clinics, Qutis clinics.co.uk, and I'll be happy to pass that along.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you for being so open with that, recommending your own marketing person. It's very generous of you. Okay. Yeah, okay, so we've got some takers on that. If you drop me a line, Kerry, then I will email that for you. But also, I mean, are you happy for us to maybe drop that just into an Instagram post at the end of today, Marea? So
I haven't asked Nick's permission to do this. I do fly by the seat of the pants. I'll have to ask him. I'll have to ask him, but I'll let him know, because you're going to let me have some of this footage, aren't you?
Yes. No, just your email. So if people want to get in touch with you, then
yes. So you have permission. I can ask myself. Marea, will you? Yes.
Okay. Well, best of luck over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Stay in touch with us for our webinars. Hopefully we've got some more interesting and educational ones coming up for the team as well.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Lynton, and goodbye, everybody, and keep safe and keep your chins up and keep smiling. It will pass.
Yeah, it will pass. Thank you ever so much. Brilliant chat. Thanks.
Bye-bye.